All right, let's talk about AWS CloudFront. Today, we're going to get past the basics. We're not talking about what it is. We're diving straight into the big league decisions, the stuff that really separates a professional cloud architect from everyone else. So, let's get right into it.
Look, you probably already know CloudFront is a content delivery network, a CDN, but the real test, the thing that really matters for your projects and, let's be honest, for the certification exams, is knowing when to pull which lever. Are you really making the most secure, the most performant, and the most cost-effective choices? That's what we're here to nail down.
So, here's what we're going to tackle. We're going to look at when a simple URL rewrite is enough versus when you need to go all in with an A/B test at the edge. We'll figure out how to choose between securing just one private file or locking down a whole directory. And we're going to get into that crucial trade-off between caching content for blazing fast reads versus accelerating raw uploads. These are the decisions that really define a great architecture. Okay, first things first. And honestly, this is the most important part for any real-world application: security. Let's talk about locking down your content and making absolutely sure only the right people or, the right services can get to it.
The absolute foundation for securing an S3 origin today is something called Origin Access Control, or OAC. Now, you might have heard about the older OAI. Forget it. OAC is the modern recommended standard, and for some very, very good reasons.
And the best part? It's ridiculously simple. It's basically a two-step dance. First, you just create the OAC inside your CloudFront settings. Then, you hop over to your S3 bucket policy, and you add a rule that says, hey, the only service principal allowed to touch this bucket is CloudFront. And that's it. Your bucket is no longer open to the public internet. So why the big deal about OAC? Why did they replace the old way? Well, this slide nails it. OAC works in every single AWS region, no exceptions. And this is the big one. It supports objects that are encrypted with your own KMS keys. The old OAI just couldn't do that, and that was a massive deal breaker for a lot of secure applications. Okay, so our S3 bucket is locked down tight. Awesome. But what if we need to give one specific user temporary access to one specific private file? This is a super common scenario, and it leads us right to our next big architectural decision. So here's the choice, and it's actually pretty simple when you think about it this way. Assigned URL, that's like a one-time ticket for a single ride. The permission is baked right into that long, unique URL. It's perfect for a private download link. But if you want to give someone an all-access pass to the entire theme park, like a whole library of members-only videos, you use signed cookies. The user gets one cookie, and then they can access all the content they're supposed to without needing a special link for every single file. Now for the really fun stuff. Let's dig into some of those tricky comparison questions, the ones that often trip up even experienced folks when you're trying to choose the right tool for compute and acceleration right at the edge of the network. This right here, this is the ultimate cheat sheet for edge compute. Just think of CloudFront Functions as a Swiss Army knife. It's incredibly fast, super lightweight, and it's perfect for those quick, simple jobs like rewriting a URL or adding a header. But if you need the entire toolbox, if you need to make network calls to other APIs or use the full power of Node.js or Python for something like complex A/B testing, that's when you grab Lambda Edge. Okay, here's another one that causes a ton of confusion, but the choice is actually really simple. It just boils down to one question. Is your workload read-heavy or write-heavy? If you're delivering the same popular files to millions of people, that's a read-heavy workload. That is textbook CloudFront. But if you have people from all over the world uploading big files to one bucket, like for a video contest, you want S3 transfer acceleration to speed up those writes.
And finally, CloudFront versus Global Accelerator. The best mental model here is a public library versus a private highway. CloudFront is the library. It keeps copies of popular web content close to you so you can get it fast. Global Accelerator, on the other hand, does not cache anything. It's the private, super fast highway for your non-HTTP traffic, like gaming or voice over IP. It just gets your packets from A to B over the AWS backbone as fast as possible.
All right, let's bring this all home in our final section, the pro-level playbook. We're going to cover a super practical configuration tip, and then we'll run through a quick-fire exam review, just to make sure all these concepts are locked in tight. Oh yeah, we have all been there. Your origin server hiccups, it throws an error, and your user is staring at a really ugly, unhelpful default error message. That is a terrible user experience, but CloudFront has a really elegant fix for it.
So what you can do is configure CloudFront to intercept those error codes, like a 404 not found or a 503 service unavailable. And instead of showing the ugly error, it serves up a beautiful custom error page from an S3 bucket. And here's the really clever bit. You can set an error caching TTL. That means if your server is down, CloudFront will just show that cached error page for a few minutes, which actually takes the pressure off your server and gives it time to recover.
Okay, pop quiz. Exam mode is on. This is one of the most common questions you will see, period. You've got private files in S3, you want users to get them through CloudFront, but you have to block them from just going to the S3 URL directly. How do you do it? What's the answer?
And there it is. The one and only right answer is use Origin Access Control and then update the S3 bucket policy. You set up the OAC in CloudFront, and you change the bucket policy to only grant access to that CloudFront service principal. That is the exact logic and phrasing you need to know.
And that brings us to our final thought for the day. You know, with incredible tools like CloudFront Functions and Lambda Edge, we can run more and more powerful logic right at the network edge, closer to our users than ever before. And this opens up a massive architectural question for the future. How much of your app should actually move from a central server to the global edge? It's a huge shift in thinking, and it's something every architect should be mulling over. Thanks for tuning in.